Wait, before you click away, what if I told you that everything you thought you knew about becoming a US citizen in 2026 is about to change dramatically? And I mean completely change. The Trump administration has just rolled out a brand new immigration policy that affects millions of people, whether you're already living in the United States on a visa, whether you're planning to apply for a green card, or whether you're dreaming of becoming a US citizen. This isn't just political talk. This is real policy that will directly impact your timeline, your costs, your eligibility, and maybe even your entire future in America. If you don't understand these changes right now, you could be making decisions based on outdated information that could cost you years of waiting, thousands of dollars, or even your entire application. So stay with me because in the next few minutes, I'm going to break down exactly what's happening, who's affected, what you need to do right now, and most importantly, how you can navigate this new system successfully. Hello, and welcome back to USA Visa Explained. I'm so glad you're here today because we have an incredibly important topic to cover. My name is, and this channel is dedicated to helping you understand the complex world of ES immigration, visas, green cards, and citizenship. I know that the immigration system can feel overwhelming, confusing, and sometimes even scary, especially when policies keep changing. But that's exactly why I'm here, to cut through all the noise, to give you clear, actionable information that you can actually use and to help you make the best decisions for your future. Today, we're diving deep into the new Trump 2026 immigration policy and what it means for anyone on the path to US citizenship. This is not a political video. I'm not here to tell you what to think about the policy. I'm here to explain what it is, how it works, and what you need to do about it. So let's start with the big picture. What exactly has changed? In the first weeks of 2026, the Trump administration implemented a comprehensive immigration reform package that affects nearly every aspect of the immigration system. This includes changes to visa processing, green card applications, citizenship requirements, enforcement priorities, and even the way applications are reviewed. Some of these changes were announced through executive orders, some through new regulations from USCIS, which is the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, and some through policy memos that change how existing laws are interpreted and enforced. The net effect is that if you're navigating the immigration system right now, you're operating in a significantly different environment than you were just a few months ago. One of the most significant changes is the increased scrutiny on all applications. What does this mean in practical terms? It means that USCIS officers are now conducting more detailed reviews of every application. They're requesting more evidence, they're scheduling more interviews, and they're taking longer to make decisions. If you thought the immigration system was slow before, you need to prepare yourself for even longer wait times now. We're hearing reports of processing times increasing by 30 to 50% for many types of applications. That means if you were expecting your green card in 12 months, you might now be looking at 18 months or more. If you were hoping to become a citizen within 6 months of applying, you might need to wait 9 months or longer. Another major change is the expansion of grounds for denial. The Trump administration has made it clear that they're taking a much stricter approach to who qualifies for immigration benefits. This affects people at every stage of the process. For visa applicants, there's now more emphasis on proving ties to your home country and demonstrating that you won't overstay. For green card applicants, there's increased scrutiny on the public charge rule, which means they're looking very carefully at whether you're likely to need government assistance. And for citizenship applicants, there's heightened attention to your entire immigration history, including any violations, even minor ones that might have been overlooked in the past. Let me break down what's changed specifically for citizenship applicants, because that's what many of you are most concerned about. First, the good moral character requirement is being interpreted much more strictly. Good moral character is one of the fundamental requirements for naturalization. You have to show that you've been a person of good moral character for at least 5 years before applying, or 3 years if you're applying based on marriage to a U.S. citizen. In the past, minor infractions might not have been a big deal, but now even small issues can cause problems. This includes things like traffic violations, if you have multiple ones, late tax payments, any criminal record no matter how old, and even certain civil violations. USCIS is now going much deeper into background checks, and they're requesting more documentation to verify your moral character. Second, the English and Civics test requirements are being enforced more rigorously. You probably know that to become a U.S. citizen, you need to pass an English test and a Civics test. The English test covers your ability to read, write, and speak basic English, and the Civics test covers us history and government. What's changed is that USCIS officers are being less lenient in their evaluation. In the past, officers might have given applicants the benefit of the doubt if they were trying hard but struggling with English. Now, the standards are being applied more strictly. This doesn't mean the test itself has changed, but it does mean that you need to be better prepared. If you're borderline on your English skills, you need to invest more time in preparation before your interview. Third, there's increased scrutiny on the continuous residence requirement. To qualify for citizenship, you need to have been a lawful permanent resident, which means a green card holder for at least 5 years or 3 years if you're married to a U.S. citizen. But it's not just about having the green card, you also need to have maintained continuous residence in the United States. This means you can't have taken trips outside the U.S. that were too long. Generally, if you leave for more than 6 months, it can break your continuous residence. And if you leave for more than a year without getting special permission, it definitely breaks it. What's new is that USCIS is now looking much more carefully at all of your travel, even shorter trips. If you've taken many trips outside the U.S., even if each one was less than 6 months, they might question whether you've truly maintained your residence here. You need to be prepared to provide detailed travel records and to explain the purpose of each trip. Fourth, the physical presence requirement is also under closer examination. In addition to continuous residence, you need to have been physically present in the United States for at least half of the required period. So if you're applying after 5 years as a green card holder, you need to have been physically present for at least 30 months out of those 60 months. USCIS is now calculating this very precisely, and they're asking for documentation to prove where you were on specific dates. This is where having good records becomes absolutely critical. You should keep copies of all your travel documents, including boarding passes, passport stamps, and any other proof of your whereabouts. Fifth, there are new documentation requirements for citizenship applications. USCIS is now routinely requesting additional evidence beyond what's listed in the basic application instructions. This can include things like complete tax transcripts for the entire eligibility period, not just tax returns, but actual transcripts from the IRS. They might ask for proof of selective service registration if you're a man who was in the U.S. between ages 18 and 26. They might request documentation of any name changes, marriage certificates, divorce decrees, birth certificates for your children, and extensive proof of your marital relationship if you're applying based on marriage to a citizen. The key takeaway here is that you should gather as much documentation as possible before you even file your application. Now let's talk about some specific categories of people who are particularly affected by these changes. If you're on a work visa, like an H-1B, and you're planning to apply for a green card and then citizenship, you need to understand that the path has become more challenging. The Trump administration has been critical of the H-1B program and has made changes that make it harder to get these visas and to renew them. Even if you have an H-1B now, you should be thinking about your long-term strategy. Should you push to get your green card as quickly as possible? Should you have a backup plan in case your visa isn't renewed? These are serious questions you need to consider. If you're a student on an F-1 visa, hoping to stay in the U.S. after graduation, you also face new challenges. The policies around optional practical training, which is the OPT program that allows you to work for a period after graduation, are under review. There's also increased scrutiny on applications to change from student status to work status. If this is your situation, you need to be very careful to maintain your status, to follow all the rules, and to document everything carefully. Any mistake could have serious consequences for your future applications. If you're married to a U.S. citizen and you're applying for citizenship based on that marriage, be prepared for intense scrutiny of your relationship. USCIS has always been concerned about marriage fraud, but now they're looking even more carefully. You'll need extensive documentation proving that your marriage is genuine. This includes joint financial documents like bank accounts, leases, or mortgages in both names, insurance policies, photos together spanning the entire period of your marriage, affidavits from friends and family who can testify to your relationship, and documentation of trips you've taken together. You should also be prepared for a detailed interview where you might be asked very personal questions about your relationship and your daily life together. If you have any kind of criminal record, even something minor from years ago, you need to take this very seriously. What might have been overlooked in the past could now be grounds for denial. This includes things like DUI convictions, domestic violence charges, drug offenses, fraud, theft, and even some misdemeanors. If you have any criminal history at all, you should consult with an immigration attorney before applying for citizenship. In some cases, it might be better to wait, or there might be ways to address the issue before applying. Don't assume that just because something happened a long time ago or because it was a minor charge that it won't matter. If you've ever received any kind of public assistance, you need to understand the implications under the public charge rule. While the public charge rule primarily affects green card applicants, it can also come up in citizenship cases, especially if you received benefits while you were a green card holder. USCIS wants to see that you're self-sufficient and not likely to become dependent on government support. If you've received benefits like Medicaid, food stamps, housing assistance, or cash assistance, you might need to provide an explanation and show that you're now financially stable. Now, what about people from specific countries? The Trump administration has implemented various country-specific policies that can affect your immigration process. If you're from a country that's on any kind of watch list or that has strained relations with the United States, you might face additional delays and scrutiny. This doesn't mean you can't become a citizen, but it does mean you need to be prepared for a longer, more complex process. You might face additional background checks, longer waiting periods, and more requests for evidence. Let's talk about what you should do right now if you're planning to apply for citizenship or if you've already applied. First, and most importantly, make sure all your documentation is in order. This cannot be stressed enough. Gather every piece of paper that might be relevant to your application. Get certified copies of important documents. Organize everything chronologically. Create a comprehensive file that includes your entire immigration history, your work history, your residential history, your travel history, and your family information. The better organized you are, the smoother your process will be. Second, be absolutely meticulous about following all the rules and requirements. This is not the time to cut corners or to assume that small mistakes won't matter. Read the application instructions carefully, multiple times. Answer every question completely and honestly. If a question doesn't apply to you, write "not applicable" rather than leaving it blank. Double-check all your information before submitting. Have someone else review your application if possible. Remember that any false statements or omissions, even if they seem minor, can be grounds for denial and can even result in deportation. Third, prepare thoroughly for your interview. The citizenship interview is your chance to demonstrate that you meet all the requirements. You'll be asked questions about your application, about your background, and about US history and government. Practice the civics questions until you know them cold. Practice speaking English if that's not your first language. Think about how you'll explain any issues in your background, like gaps in employment, periods of time outside the US, or any legal problems. Be ready to provide additional documentation if asked. Dress professionally for your interview and be respectful to the officer. First impressions matter. Fourth, consider getting professional help. Immigration law is complex, and the stakes are high. A mistake on your citizenship application can have serious consequences. While it's possible to do it yourself, many people benefit from working with an immigration attorney or an accredited representative. A good attorney can review your case, identify any potential issues, help you prepare your application, and represent you if problems arise. Yes, this costs money, but it can be worth it for the peace of mind and the increased likelihood of success. If you can't afford an attorney, look for nonprofit organizations in your area that provide free or low cost immigration legal services. Fifth, be patient and stay informed. The immigration process is slow right now, and it's likely to get slower. Don't panic if you don't hear back right away. USCIS is dealing with huge backlogs and they're implementing new policies that slow things down further. That said, you should monitor your case status regularly. You can do this online through the USCIS website. If your case is taking significantly longer than the posted processing times, you might be able to make an inquiry. Stay informed about policy changes by following reliable sources of immigration news. Things are changing rapidly, and you need to know what's happening. Sixth, maintain your status and follow all laws while you're waiting. This should go without saying, but it's critical. While your citizenship application is pending, you're still a green card holder, and you need to continue following all the rules that apply to green card holders. Don't travel outside the U.S. for extended periods without permission. Don't engage in any criminal activity, no matter how minor. Pay all your taxes on time. Maintain your employment if your green card is employment-based. Any violations during this time can sink your citizenship application. Seventh, prepare for possible denial and have a backup plan. I don't say this to scare you, but to help you be realistic. With the current policies, more applications are being denied than in the past. If your application is denied, you typically have the right to appeal or to reapply. But you need to understand why it was denied and address those issues. This is another area where an attorney can be invaluable. You should also think about what you'll do if you can't become a citizen. Can you continue living in the U.S. as a green card holder? Do you have options in other countries? Having a backup plan reduces stress and helps you make better decisions. Let's also talk about some common mistakes that people make and that you should avoid. One of the biggest mistakes is lying on your application or during your interview. This includes not just outright lies, but also omissions and misleading statements. If you've ever been arrested, even if the charges were dropped, you need to disclose it. If you've ever used a different name, you need to disclose it. If you've traveled outside the U.S., you need to list all your trips. USCIS has access to a lot of information, and they will find out if you're not being truthful. Lying on your application is not just grounds for denial. It can result in you being permanently barred from US immigration benefits. Another common mistake is applying too early. There are specific timing requirements for citizenship applications, and you can't apply before you meet them. If you apply even one day too early, your application will be denied, and you'll lose your filing fee. Make sure you calculate your eligibility date correctly. You can apply up to 90 days before you meet the 5-year or 3-year residence requirement, but not earlier. Count carefully, and when in doubt, wait a few extra days to be sure. A third mistake is not preparing adequately for the English and Civics tests. Some people assume these tests are easy and don't study, then they fail at their interview. This not only delays your application, but can also make you look bad to the immigration officer. Take these tests seriously. There are many free resources online to help you study, including practice tests and flashcards. If English is not your first language, practice speaking it regularly. Watch English language TV, read English newspapers, have conversations in English. The more you use the language, the more comfortable you'll be at your interview. A fourth mistake is not keeping good records of your travel. Many people don't realize how important this is until they're filling out their citizenship application and they can't remember all their trips. Start keeping a travel log now if you haven't already. Every time you leave the U.S. and every time you return, write it down with the dates. Keep copies of your passport pages showing entry and exit stamps. Keep your boarding passes and tickets. This information will be critical when you apply for citizenship, and you don't want to be guessing about dates. A fifth mistake is not updating your address with USCIS. If you move while your application is pending, you must notify USCIS within 10 days. If you don't, you might not receive important notices about your case, including your interview appointment. Missing your interview because you didn't receive the notice can result in your application being denied. You can update your address online through the USCIS website or by filing a Form R11. Now let's address some frequently asked questions that I get about citizenship under the new policies. One common question is whether the new policies apply to applications that were already filed before the policy changes. The answer is generally yes. Even if you filed your application under the old rules, it will be processed under the current policies. This means that if you filed before the changes and your case is still pending, you might face some of the new requirements. This is frustrating, but it's legal. The government has broad authority to change how it processes applications. Another question is whether it's better to apply now or to wait. This depends on your individual circumstances. If you meet all the requirements now and your case is straightforward with no issues, it might make sense to apply sooner rather than later, because policies could become even stricter. On the other hand, if you have any potential issues in your case, it might be worth waiting and taking time to address those issues first. This is the kind of question where professional advice can be really valuable. People also ask whether the new policies are permanent or whether they might change again. The honest answer is that we don't know. Immigration policy in the United States has become highly politicized, and it can change with each administration. What we know is that these are the policies now and for the foreseeable future. You need to work within the current system while staying informed about potential changes. Another frequent question is, what happens if you're denied citizenship? If your application is denied, you'll receive a written notice explaining why. In most cases, you won't be able to appeal the denial directly, but you can request a hearing with an immigration officer to review the decision. If that doesn't work, you might be able to reapply after addressing the reasons for denial. Importantly, being denied citizenship doesn't automatically affect your green card, so you can continue living in the U.S. as a permanent resident. However, if USCIS discovers that you obtained your green card fraudulently or if you've committed certain crimes, your denial could lead to removal proceedings. This is another reason why it's so important to be honest and to follow all the rules. People also wonder whether they should hire an attorney or whether they can handle the application themselves. My answer is that it depends on the complexity of your case. If your situation is straightforward, you've always maintained lawful status, you have no criminal record, you haven't traveled much, and you're confident in your English skills, you might be able to do it yourself. But if you have any complicating factors, an attorney can be a wise investment. This includes things like any time spent out of status, any criminal issues, any previous denials of immigration benefits, a complicated employment history, or significant time spent outside the U.S. When in doubt, at least consult with an attorney for an initial assessment of your case. As we wrap up, I want to emphasize a few key points. First, yes, the immigration system has become more challenging, but people are still successfully becoming U.S. citizens every day. Don't let fear or discouragement stop you from pursuing your goal. Second, preparation and attention to detail are more important than ever. Take the time to do things right. Third, stay informed and be flexible. Policies can change, and you need to be ready to adapt. Fourth, seek help when you need it. There are resources available, and you don't have to navigate this alone. And fifth, don't give up on your dream of becoming a U.S. citizen. It might take longer and require more effort than you hoped, but it's still achievable. I really hope this video has given you a clear understanding of the current situation and what you need to do. I know this is a lot of information and it might feel overwhelming, but remember that knowledge is power. The more you understand about the system, the better equipped you are to navigate it successfully. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps the YouTube algorithm show this content to more people who need it. Subscribe to USA Visa Explained so you don't miss future updates, because I'll continue covering immigration policy changes and providing practical advice. Turn on notifications so you're alerted whenever I post a new video. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Are you currently going through the citizenship process? What challenges are you facing? What questions do you have? I read all the comments and I try to respond to as many as I can. Your feedback also helps me understand what topics you want me to cover in future videos. If there are specific aspects of immigration that you'd like me to explain, let me know. Please share this video with anyone you know who's on the path to US citizenship or who's considering applying. This information could make a real difference in someone's application. You can share it with friends, family, colleagues, or in online communities where people discuss immigration. The more people who have accurate information, the better. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I really appreciate your time and attention. I know you have many choices for where to get immigration information, and I'm honored that you chose to spend this time with me. Remember that while the journey to citizenship might be challenging, it's also incredibly rewarding. US citizenship opens up so many opportunities, and it's worth the effort it takes to get there. Stay positive, stay prepared, and stay persistent. You can do this. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep moving forward with your immigration goals, and I'll see you in the next video right here on USA Visa Explained. Good luck with your journey, and remember, I'm here to help you every step of the way. Bye for now.